Hey everybody, welcome to today's class. And before I start with the class, I want to mention that I think tomorrow or um, somewhere soon, I will I will make a post about the next ebook, the animal drawing ebook, and when that's releasing. And everyone who's a Patreon now or before 1 January, joins before 1 January, will get the ebook. But I will make a post about that soon. And furthermore, I'm now working on a new ebook about anatomy drawing. And I already did an ebook about anatomy drawing, but I had the feeling I could add way more to that book. So um, today's class is going to be about the first drawings I made for that new ebook. And besides that, maybe you've seen me because I already posted on Patreon as well and on my Instagram as well that I got this iPad and started playing around in Procreate. So I'm also planning some tutorials in Procreate, but more on that soon because I first need to be a bit more advanced in Procreate before I can teach in that. So yeah, let's start with the lesson. So first I will talk about some anatomy drawing. And after that, I'm going to discuss the work everybody sent me. And for everyone who's new here, I get a lot of questions. Where can I start? And I think you can start anywhere you want. Have a quick look through my Patreon account, look at all the videos and watch the one you find interesting, or just start with this one. And because I try to make every lesson suitable for everyone, no matter what your level is, and you can always send me drawings for the Friday review, and then I can give you some tips how to get along. So let's start with this one. So, and I wanted to make this page about construction and using shapes and what kind of shapes. So let me show, take this pen here. So like this sphere, if you see this ball, you can see the direction. It could be aimed at this side. It could go this side. So it's open to every direction it is, and that's because there's one surface. And here, this cylinder got 1, 2, 3 surface. We only see 2 because the third one is behind. But here we can see the direction of this, but not from this. With this cube, we see 1, 2, 3 surface, but there's also a fourth one and a fifth one and a sixth one. I think I have them all. Yeah, 6 surfaces. And here you can see all the directions in the space. So I hope that's clear. But my point is that if you add these lines, you can see the direction and it starts to become 3D. And this looks 2D. Circle without guides, it looks flat and you can see the direction. These are the perspective guides, and that helps that give that 3D feeling. And with these shapes, I can draw everything I want, because you can, with this circle, you can stretch and squash, and you can add 2 circles and make weird shapes. And you can also combine them with these shapes. I think I'm showing that here. So here I'm combining different shapes together. And that's also how you can create something like this head or these hips. So I think that's really important. And if you can understand this correctly, you can basically draw everything in 3D space. And this is really important. A lot of artists struggle with this. So try to develop that first. And I think I will give some tips about that more later. Here, I'm talking about some different how you say, principles in drawing or rules I use. And of course, you can use any rule you want. Only these rules are the rules that a lot of artists use. And you also see them in animation studios, for example. And at least it's good to understand them and know why they are used. So straight versus curved. So for example, if you're drawing an arm, with an hand and muscles. So this looks kind of strange, but if you draw the arm with one side has these curved shapes and one side is straight, like this here, then you get more an organized drawing. So this is straight and this is curved. But it's also that you're using one side is straight and one side is complex or simple. For example, if you have an arm and you have these hairs underneath it, it works better than if you have both sides really detailed, because then it's also easier for the eye to know. Maybe I'm going a bit fast through this now, but I'm talking more about this. And maybe it's even good that if this is all new for you, that you just let it come over you, and you will see it again later, because I'm talking more and more about it. And so different types of lines. When I'm drawing, I use an S line, and a C line, and an I line. So when I'm drawing a head, I'm using all these different lines. So here, and even eyes, it's not one circle, but it's often three lines. So here I'm using an S, and here's a C, and here's an I, and I'm trying to use as many different of those three type of lines. Different sizes is also something I use to create interesting drawings. So for example, if you're drawing a snowman, don't draw the snowman like this, but draw him like this. That's more interesting. Rhythm. So when you're drawing a figure, so you're using an action line, then you're also trying to get this kind of, it's a bit hard to really show this quickly, but get this rhythm in it. So what I'm showing here is that if you have these lines of a character and you have a ping pong ball and you throw it in, then it bounces in the body in a fluid way. Shapes. There's basically three kind of shapes: circle, cube, and a triangle. And this is 2D. And maybe in 3D they would look like this. So here is a sphere, and here is cylinder. And if we make the cylinder like this, it's a triangle. And then we have the cube. So like that. Surface lines. So for example, surface lines help create depth. So here you get this sense of depth because of this line. And you can use that maybe on a t-shirt, or maybe there's a tiger print or something, anything. Perspective helps create depth. Angles, don't draw everything vertical or horizontal. Try to be as random as possible with your types of lines. And these things are all things you maybe can practice one by one. And that sounds a bit dull maybe, but it's really good to practice it and really understand it very well. Maybe I can make a lesson about how to practice those kind of things. Maybe that's something for later. So here are some more rules. Like we have overlap. So here we have one ball and then a second ball. And you can see that this ball is in the front because it overlaps the one in the back. Here we can also see that this ball is in the front because it's on the surface here on the front in this. So if you imagine perspective, you would definitely see which one is closer. So been diminishing size. So if something is further away in perspective, it gets smaller. So it looks like this one is farther away. Twist, that can help create your drawing more, make it more dynamic. For example, if you're drawing a character, a fun little trick is if you're just drawing a character like this, if you let him look this way and his body this way, it already makes it a bit more interesting. Avoid tangents. So tangent is that all these lines coming together at one point. And I'm always trying to get all the lines at different points. And then it's easier to tell what it is. Avoid symmetry. So here you can see that these balls are like this. So if I would draw something like this, I think it's better to draw it like maybe like this. So there's no symmetry. Both sides are different. Volume, that helps to create 3D. Silhouette, make a clear silhouette so it's clear what your character is doing in the silhouette. All the good movies and characters have clear silhouettes. Foreshortening, that is the illusion of depth. That's when this side is bigger than this side. So what we see with our eyes that you created on a 2D paper. So that's what I wanted to show there. Gesture. So a gesture is basically how a person is standing. And you can see it when children start to draw, they draw these stick figures like this. And stick figures are actually a really good thing to start drawing. But this looks stiff. But if you draw this stick figure more like this, it already gets a bit more schwung or more more gesture. So this gesture is more bent and is more lifelike. So here this figure is more lifelike and this looks like a doll. So when you want to draw something that is a doll or a robot that's empty or something, then you can draw this. But if you're drawing a character that needs to have life in it, then you draw it more with this action line. And this is an action line. An action line is one line that represents the pose. So for example, if we draw a running character, then you draw something like this, right? So this is then the action line, and then you make the drawings on top of that line. And in other videos, I talked more about that, but even if that's new for you, don't worry. It's just a little introduction into those things. Flow and line of action. I always start with a flowing line to get a strong gesture. And for people who are new, a really good exercise is to draw a crazy line and then draw a sphere, and also use these perspective guides and draw a cylinder and try to follow this shape and try to get this this 3D feeling in it. And if you do this, you start developing this feeling for 3D more. And basically, I'm doing here the same with these building blocks. So here you have this line that's going like this or this or this. I hope you can see that. That's all that has these lines, and I'm adding these shapes on top of it. And combining line of action and shapes is really a good combination, because the line of action helps you create a character that's fluid and has energy. And these shapes make your character solid, and that it's in 3D, and that it feels that you can touch it. So more gesture. So here, this is the practice that I just mentioned. Draw a line and add all these shapes to it. Coming days, I will also share it on my Instagram. So maybe you can take a peek at those images and make some practices. And it would be really cool if some people would send me over these kind of practices for next week. So example of that. And head construction. Let me take a sip of water. So how I build the head is try to really think of how can you most easily draw the head. And I think start with a ball. And then, so like this. So now he's looking this direction. Then we can, let's pick a different color. We can create this mask in the middle and go something like this. Then we have the jaw. And then we can take a different color. And this is mostly the times how I start with drawing the head. And then you can add the neck. So here I'm also showing that with this head, this ball, it's starts with a sphere, a ball like this here. But what I do is I cut off here. I take a knife basically, and I cut off the sides of the head so that this is straight. So if you look in the mirror at your cranium, you can see it that this part is straight, and also on the other side as well. So that's why I'm showing that here. It's also, if you look at this, your head, then this side is slightly wider at the top than down there. So it's a bit, it's not straight down cut off. So here I'm showing that. Let me draw this head step by step. So I start with a ball, then I add those perspective lines, perspective guides. I take off these sides, like this here, and then here we have these straight lines here. Maybe also a bit here, so these sides are taken off. And then we add the jaw. So it's going like this here. Oh, starting here, oh, I made a little mistake. So this goes straight down, and then here, this here. So can you notice that already feels a bit 3D because of all these lines? And that's really important, that you start to think in 3 dimensions. So like this. So here I'm showing it from the side, and a bit of a different approach, because I start with this ball, but then I make this line and it goes down like this. Then I take this back of the head and draw a line that goes like this. So this really flow. Then I make this cross inside this head. Then in the middle here, I go down, and then I merge this line and make a nice arc going down here. So, and also from up here, you can do something like that. And then you have some kind of face mask. So, and erase this a bit. So then you have a bit of an, it's almost like a skull. And I will also start drawing some skulls more to really show how that works. And you can also draw a line like this, a flowing line. So, and this also helps create your drawings, give these drawings a bit more energy. And our neck is basically like this. So you're drawing these two lines going here. And that makes it quite easily to draw the head. So at least it's one of the most easy ways to draw a head that I know of, and take off the sides of the head. And you can use this to create your head, and it's easier to, if you use these steps, you can also rotate the head and more to draw it. And you can use this technique also for drawing in perspective. So start with a ball, then in the middle go draw a line straight down, and also a line like this here, and a line like this here. Then you can take off the side of the head here, and then you can draw this line here in the middle, going down. So we know this part, and here, and then we know here this middle, and here the top of the head. And then you also have this nice shape of the head. And it's easy to remember and to feel. And you can use this approach to makes it easier to rotate. For example, if you would start to draw something like that, start with a ball, then you go down here, and it makes it just easier. And it's also what the Disney animators used to have these kind of drawings. Then it makes easier to animate these kind of things. So here it's really good drawing, but then it's looking down and so on. So it makes it easier to rotate these shapes. Maybe some people find it hard to draw this angle, and it is. So here, for these kind of drawings, I'm also often using reference photos. You can also make a picture of your own head, and then try drawing your head with these lines over it, to just see if it works or not. So, something like that. So break it down until it's really easily. More difficult angles. And later, when the ebook is final, every patron will get it, so they can study all these images. Basic shape of the head, regular size, stretch, squash. So you can, this is the basic, most generic base of the head, but I draw cartoony, so I squash and I stretch those shapes. All those three shapes you can squash and stretch. So here I made this part longer. Here I changed the shape a bit. Here I really pushed it. Here I gave it more cheek. Here I also make it more rounded or more pointy or more square. So you can really deform all these shapes and try to play around, try to come up with kind of variations you come, and you can use that to create your own characters. So here I'm showing also on top of this head, you can add these kind of shapes to create more interesting heads. So for example, if we have this, let's take this one so we don't have to draw it all over again. So you can also draw this hairline, is most of the time a bit under the top of the head. So hairline, and then this is the line for the eyes. And then in the middle of this is the line of our mouth. So what we now could do is can now add this shape on the head, and also here, give it here. So here's the part where the eye sockets are, and then you can draw in the jaw, and that's also here going a bit like this. So this part's a bit flat, and this part goes a bit like this. Then you can add the cheeks as a shape here. And then you can add the nose as a separate shape. And all these shapes make it easier to rotate it around, all these separate shapes. So try to draw these shapes in different angles. So, and that's what I did here. Here you can see I just used these kind of shapes to draw these different angles. And it's still hard, but it makes it a bit easier to actually draw these kind of things. So I will be making a bit more tutorials about the head, and then I will talk about more anatomy in the body. So, but I think about the head is a lot of stuff to cover, and I think in my last book, anatomy book, I talked a bit about drawing the head, but I can start. Yeah, I can add way more. Also a bit about the muscles in head and so on. So let's start with talking about people, their homework. So first start with this one. This really nice painted character. And first I want to say, I really like it. And then only thing is that I have a feeling that if we look at it in gray, there's not really a focus point. And maybe I want to, is this the most important or is that character more important? So I think this is more important because here's this much contrast. And contrast is basically black and white and so on. So this character is all gray and it's a bit gone in the environment. So here this head is almost the same color value as the background, but this dog head, you have all these dark shapes here, and this head stands more out. If you want to have this knight more in the contrast, then you could do this differently. And then maybe you can use a white background, something like that. That would also already help more. But I think it's okay that maybe this head is more aimed. What I maybe would do is, and I don't know, maybe I think play around a bit with it. Maybe make this a bit less or a bit darker or something. Maybe give it a bit more shading. It doesn't have to be too much faded, but also here this maybe also gives a bit more depth if some things are a bit more lighter. So here, so now even maybe this character maybe a little bit contrasty, so like this, but then really this head is really pointing out, and you also see this knight is also pointing to that character. Maybe if he's pointing towards this, maybe that also can help. Maybe it looks a bit too dangerous, but I think that can help if you have a focus point. And that's really important. What do you want to tell? And what is the most important in your drawing? The focus point. So I think the focus point in this painting is the dog. And I think it would really help if you put all these the most of the details here and the most of the contrast here. And then you can just maybe make here shine or something. And then maybe make this a bit more close by. You can maybe use some painting some hairs. But I think that would really help. Think in values. What you can also do to add values, make a layer if you're working in Photoshop at least. But you also have this in other software. Take a gray color like black and put it on UE. Then you also have a good, so now you can see where are all the, where is the most contrast in this character. Maybe you would make this shadow. Also make the shadow a bit lighter, I think. So because you want to have the most contrast here. Great work. Yeah, and the colors is secondary. The value is more important than the color. And I would look out for these. I think these tones are getting a bit too black. Watch out with using too much black in your drawings, because then it can get dirty. Try to maybe use maybe a warm. Here, what I'm doing with, if I'm using a shadow, for example, all these colors are all the same. If I'm using a shadow, what I sometimes do is I make this color a bit colder or something. So maybe a bit of, instead of black, I use this a bit more purple color like this. What I sometimes also do is then, if I have this color, I go and add an extra layer, put this on multiply, and then I use this purple color. So if I put it on normal, you see it's this purple color. If I put it on multiply, you get this warm dark color. So nice work. I hope those tips helped. If you want to see more about those tips, check out the painting videos I have on my Patreon. So here we can look at the red. So this really cool character, and yeah, I really like the sheet. So maybe if I would show this to a client, I would maybe organize it a bit different, I think. And I wouldn't show it maybe on one page, but on a multiple, because there's so much information. Normally I would make a separate page for this. And to a client, I wouldn't even show this quick sketch. And maybe you send it separately. I don't know for sure. But also, if I would send this to a client, what I also always do is adding numbers to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then so they can pick and choose what they want. The same here. But I like that you give different options. Maybe you could, here, these posters are basically all the same. So maybe you could play around with that. So try to make different posters if you're sending that to a client. Of course, it depends also on the budget and how much time you can spend on something like that. But let's look at this this red. So I think it's really nice. So I think you did a great job. There's this nice action line in it. Maybe the tail would work better if it's something like this. So then it also helps getting this direction like that. Or I actually like that it's pointing at the glass. So maybe the tail goes more like this, something maybe. So this, so then you have a more clear action line. And also with the construction. So if you would draw the construction of this character, so here, and you shape, now maybe put this belly there, and then maybe show this leg that is starting out of the side more here. And then think of how that anatomy is working of this character, and then put in this leg is from behind. So here we have this leg that is coming out of the body. So now I'm drawing it really ugly. I hope it's clear. But that there's this overlap, and this one is coming from the back. Maybe you can even use that feet, give it this angle that it's up. Next, even maybe more silly, and maybe this feet. That his feet is maybe doing this, that he's standing on his toes like that. Maybe putting this arm maybe more stretched or something. And maybe open with this hand open like this. Maybe here you can also have this action line in the arm. I have a feeling it could be a bit more fluid than the drawing. It all feels a bit too separate, some parts. And also watch out that these shapes are almost the same size. So maybe you can make this one smaller, something like this, and then this one bigger. And then use this one as medium shape. But I think that would make it a bit more interesting. That's what I was earlier talking about, those rules. That you're using a medium shape, a big shape, and maybe a small shape or something. And it makes it just a bit more interesting. And what you mean with connecting these shapes is that maybe you can do something like this, so that this line connects all these shapes together. And here you use these lines to make this overlap in the line work. But you don't want to draw the nose too much like this. But I think it's way more interesting if you draw the nose a bit more like this. If I would really draw it, but that you don't have that symmetry that you do have here. But great work, man. I'll see more work from you. It looks awesome. So it's also really cool drawing from a pretty red head. And first thing I think is this skull or something? Is that their hair? It looks a bit weird that it's almost like a bald spot, because if this is her head, and I'll also try to add this construction and anatomy, so her head should be something like this, and her eyes also feels a bit misplaced. So what I do, and I will also make a tutorial about it soon, is place this eye mask on top of that, so the eyes are connected. You see, because this nose feels also a bit too much to the side. Should be a bit more in the middle. These lips are really cool. I really like your style and working. But for the hair, think of the hairline. So the hairline would be a bit like this, and then the hairs are coming out of this here. But for the rest, the hair looks really nice. Maybe you can use a bit more a big overall shape, like this here or something. I don't know. Trying to, and then add all these shapes following this line, but that there's a bit more flow in it. I think that can add a bit more overall shapes in it. And I also like this. Maybe you can push this, that this shoulder is a bit higher than this one, so we have this angle here. And yeah, try to work on your construction also here. Her breast, try to think of how does these shapes go around it. But awesome work. It's really beautiful drawing. Great work. And let's look at this lineup. So I think I gave feedback on this for an earlier version. It really looks nice. What I wouldn't do if I would send it to someone is to make these layers multiply. I will just add this and here. And I think this is great for a portfolio project, but I would just show it like this here. But watch out with this balloon. It's covering part you maybe don't want to cover. So I would think, and I think this line would also be straight, right? So this balloon goes up. So maybe we can add the balloon. Maybe you can show off the kid a bit more that the balloon is maybe here, and that he's standing here or something. But then you have this more that you show a bit of the silhouette there. But nice. So maybe if this is the husband, maybe it helps if you put this hand on her. And then maybe it helps if you, so this is the stepfather, but the stepfather is looking at her, and I don't know, maybe it's my screwed up mind, but then I think that he's he's eyeballing her, but shouldn't he be looking at the kid? So, and it looks like this kid is looking at her, but I think you want to show the kid that's looking at her. And why is she holding her hands like this and the cheese? So I'm just thinking loud. I'm just thinking about what's coming up. So maybe if she's holding the cheese for the dog, maybe do something like this, that she's doing this, and then maybe the dog is then turned around or something. So something like this, and that the dog is looking at that thing, and maybe you see his tongue. Then it's also a bit more clear that he's looking at this. So you want to be as simple as possible so that people see it right away. And then it's okay to let him look like this. But why is he looking worried? I don't know. Maybe he is muscular. If you want to do something funny and add character, but he's muscular, but maybe that's not the vibe you want to do. But if you want to make something like for your portfolio, for a TV show, maybe it's funnier if you let him look at his muscles or something. And then maybe it's a bit too negative for this character or something, but at least he will get some character by it. So from, look at me. Maybe he has a dumbbell in his hand or something. And this tells he's always sporting or something. If I would, and I really like this cheese and this dog, so maybe she's a dog trainer or something. So maybe she has a whistle on her. But if I was this for my portfolio, I would add a lot of more story into it. So maybe with this girl, maybe the balloon is here and this girl is looking, oh, my balloon or something. And then, so something like this. And then that you maybe let this stepfather look, also let this stepfather look. Oh, and he's about to grab it or something. And that creates maybe a bit more story or something. Maybe grandma with flowers. Maybe grandma can hold a big cake or something. So something, oh, I've baked cake for everybody, and maybe you see the smell, and then you also see this dog is he wants to get a piece of the cake or something. But my feedback is that add more story and think about the story, especially this lineup, if you want to use it for your portfolio. And because then you can show it to a possible client and you can show that you can create your own story. Maybe you're going to create your own comic or your own movie because of that. Let's go to the next one. And you also mentioned about what kind of lines I use. And yeah, I'm just working in Adobe Photoshop. I'm using the smoothing. That's maybe 2 years old or something. But then you can create these smooth lines. If I turn it off, you get way less smoother lines than if you turn it really up. So here now I get way more smoother lines. And most of the time I have it at 10% or something. So that helps me with getting more smoother lines. And for the rest, my brush is really basic. Shape dynamics, pen pressure, that's it. Transfer, I'm using this transfer. Pen pressure, look at these options here, and then you can see that it's, yeah, it's really basic for my sketching. And I think it's, don't worry too much about your lines. If you draw a lot, you will develop your own lines. And this really nice drawing, and I really like the color and rendering, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. What I maybe would give you the tip is work on your perspective. So I think this is in the sync. And how can we show that? So we maybe have this, maybe it's the shot that we're in the sync, and I like that you have this as a foreground element, that you here you have all these things. Maybe you're looking a bit like this. So, and I think I would use the perspective here. And the horizon line will be low, and with your it's high. So, but we're looking up, and maybe this kid is, so this feeling that this kid is really big if we do it like this. Then here we have this, he's holding his glasses to see what, oh, what am I seeing there? And then we have this, these things here, and then maybe so. And then these gnomes look really smaller, and I think you want to have that side. So perspective wise, I would start with something like, first I always start with this grid. I want to put the head of the kid here, but I want to put the horizon here, and I want to sync this really big sync here, and then this. So you really have this foreground element, maybe put a box here, and maybe use this. And what's really nice opportunity is use this closet to look outside, and maybe show a bit of perspective here from the ceiling to give this extra big, small. So that's the main thing. I would work on your layout and composition. But great work. If you can use this in a more perspective in this, then you would really improve your work. Maybe you can check out perspective videos for some tips about that. So let's move on. So this, and I looked at your all your drawings, and I really like this one spotted out for me. And first things, maybe this is, and I don't want to say you're a beautiful drawing. I don't want to say you're lazy, but it feels a bit like the easy way. So maybe you can add more of a hand-drawn shape here also, and then use different shape for the dog. That can help create a bit more interesting. So also what I did is back, that you're using these parallel lines, boring. So try to use different angles. So maybe use this more shape that's more, and maybe see moving that way. So this back would maybe also going a bit more like this, and that creates a bit more energy in it. So here you did that. So I'll do that also with the back. Also like that you did it here. So maybe you can use this line. So don't do this with the leg, but do just the leg, do this. So that you're drawing this leg. It's really good anatomy for this. So that you have something like this. So that creates even more speed. Yeah, and the anatomy is really nice and good, but that's still something you can work on, especially with characters like this. So try to work on your construction, and maybe use this arm, maybe put this arm a bit more so the silhouette is more clear, and also maybe, and then if you move this hand to the side, you can give her hair a bit more space, so their hair can also be more wavy, going like that. So try to give everything maybe a bit more space. Then you also, if you have this back here, then you can also show this leg a bit more. Maybe you can give it a bit more negative space to make it a bit more readable. But I really like it. Maybe also this dog, maybe point this dog a bit more. Maybe make his mouth open or something to make this a really happy dog. So push, especially with this dog. I think you can push this dog more. But great work. And let's look at these drawings. So I think these ones look really good. I wouldn't give too much feedback on it. Just keep doing and going. This looks really great. This one is also, it's really looking great. Only it looks like it's pushed down too much or something. It feels like the drawing would be better if we move it a bit up like this here. So let me draw this character for once. Show how I would draw something like this. So here, and then these eyes. Maybe these ears. Maybe these ears are a bit too vertical straight up. So I would maybe do something like this. And then this horn. And then here this neck. And it can be, I think it's funny if it's feeling a bit like a mini rhino or something. Also think about this overall shape. You can have a bit more feeling. So this is the simple side. This is then the complex side. So maybe we can push this leg here. And we can push this leg here. Maybe push this, let his feet is here. So think about the construction of these shapes. So here. This is basically how I would start. So try to simplify first. There's so much detail. And the shape this and this. And I think if you give this overall shape first, and then you add this thing on it, and I wouldn't add too much here. Just really, just a bit to keep this side simple. And so something like this. Maybe give him a bit of pens. But you're using this basic line, and then you can add shapes following this line. But you want to keep this overall feeling. But great work, keep it up, and these are really good. So let's look at these studies. I think these are from my sketchbook studies, and it's really good that I can really feel that you're using these construction shapes. So if you're drawing a head on this, think of how these eyes wrapping around these shapes. So try to think that. I think you're already doing that. Just keep doing that, how these shapes, also the eyes. So if we have the head and we place the eyes on top of it, it follows the shape. So like this. So, but these are really great studies. And even with this crown, think of how this crown goes around the head. I'm always drawing through my shapes to get this, to get these correct circles. Or else it looks too much like this, and you want to have more this. real round feeling, that you get these nice edges there. So let's look at these. So these look really great. Awesome work. And I think you're really progressing good, Anders. This one, even I think you can even push this a bit more. But the main thing is, I don't know where you drawn this with. Maybe ballpoint or something. I would love to see you having more this loose hand. I think that's what you really need to do now, is to really sketch a bit more like this. Maybe look at some other artist or something, and look how they sketch. Try to look some rough sketches from some really artists, but don't try to be clean. Try to be rough. Maybe I also need to show a bit more rough drawings, but I think you can be a bit more rough, and that will be really a help, because that will give your drawing more life and energy. And it's really good that you're focusing on this neat drawings and for construction, but I want to see you more, more sketchy. Maybe use a different medium, like a thick pencil, a really soft 4B pencil, or in Photoshop this really rough brush. And for example, this tail, really like this edge. Then maybe add some. So you have this simple side versus complex, and this feels a bit too parallel. And but I have the feeling, if you would draw a bit, maybe trying to be a bit more loose and don't try to be so tidy, it would really help your drawing. And I hope that's clear. So maybe you can even draw these again, and then be really sketchy. And maybe that's really difficult in the beginning, but I think you will learn from this, because this just feels a bit too straight. You need to loosen up. Let's look at these sketches. So these are, what I really like about these sketches, these are loose. And that's a really good habit. And I think you could work a bit on your construction. So like working with these shapes. So if you're doing this too much, your drawings get too loose and loose construction. And if you're using too much constructions, your drawings can get stiff. And but your drawings really have energy. So that's really nice. Also, the painting is awesome. Great work on that. I really like this drawing. Again, this arm seems a little bit small. I would make this arm a bit bigger. And I think for you, you can work on your construction a bit. Example with this character. So here we have this action line. So try to work on that construction. And then here this mustache. So here, and then here we have this head here. And then here we have this ball for the torso, and then here this. Maybe his butt is a bit pushed up. Then here we have this leg that is really like this, and then maybe there this leg is bent, so there's also contrast. Maybe you want to have a bit of perspective there, so that it's, this one is a bit down there, and then this feet is forward, so then we can use this bucket like this, because he's moving that way. This bucket moves that way, and then here we can use this arm here with this brush here. Maybe it's funny to have this brush a bit like this here. So this gives it maybe a bit more energy. and use that construction. Think of these kind of shapes, right, to make it more solid. I think that can be a focus point for you because your energy is really good to add a bit more solidness. So think a bit in these kind of shapes that I showed earlier in this video. Thanks. Let's look at these sketches. So these are also really cool. For you, maybe also try to draw more in these shapes when you're sketching. Maybe try to draw a bit bigger. I have a feeling you're drawing really small, and then you have a bit more space to try out this, to draw in construction like this and here. So draw on these. So this is really rough, and sometimes I just start with this and that, and when I have something like this, I erase it until I barely see it, and then I start drawing on top of it. And I try to follow still follow the shapes in mind. So I still try to have that perspective. I'm using those CSI lines as much as I can. So here, a bit depth, this nose is in front of that eye, and so on. But that's a bit how I work. So I really like the sketches, but maybe you can work a bit more with a bit construction and be a bit more rougher and use a bit more in shapes. And also here, this nose seems a bit flat, but here this construction feels a bit like this, but then you can add the nose. So here we have this head here. So it goes here, and then you place this nose on top of it, but it has also this 3D, and then this mouth is here. Just earlier what I showed with those heads, that you try to work a bit more on the construction of the head. Think of how it's constructed. Great work. I think you were the last one. And yeah, thanks everyone for the great homework everybody sent in. And send me again something next week in the post. I will post the instruction how to send the homework to me. And I hope to see you next week again. Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.